Hello and welcome back to the Political Compass Test. Today we're talking about religion and sex. Two subjects that go together perfectly, because what kind of a god are you if you don't care about what people do in their bedrooms together? If you haven't seen the first few episodes of this, I'd highly suggest you click the top right corner and watch all the episodes in order. With that out of the way, let's begin. Astrology accurately explains many things. No. If you have any ounce of scientific knowledge, you'd know that astrology is all bullshit. You cannot be moral without being religious. So let's take a look at the empirical data, or the data, whatever. Of all the countries, when the government is religious, or it's a theocracy, essentially, crime rates tend to be pretty high. Morally, it isn't usually very great. It's usually an authoritarian regime. And when the people are religious, or when they're just pretending to be religious under a religious government, for example, crime rates are also very high. The more religious the country is, the more crime there is, generally. I mean, if you think of the Middle East, a bunch of shitholes, not very much to enjoy back there, but there's lots of religion. Doesn't seem to stop anybody from doing anything bad. Meanwhile, of all the developed countries, they're almost all non-religious or secular in nature. And all of them have generally lower religiosity amounts than those developing countries, even within those developed countries. For example, the United States. We in the United States are very religious, but you'll see that our crime rates are no lower than any other country in the developed world. I know. If you're religious, you don't really like using science or empirical data that much. But as far as we know, as far as we can tell based on the evidence, morality and religiosity have very little to do with each other. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I'm gonna take social security as meaning, in general, just welfare, a safety net, not just for old people or something like that. Just think about it. In the United States, charity and social security are in place, and we still have poverty, and lots of it. If charity and social security together can't help solve poverty, why would taking away social security help? It makes absolutely no sense. If you were to take away Social Security and everybody saved all that money in taxes, the best you could do is for all those taxes to be donated to charity. And then what? The best case scenario for removing Social Security is that nothing happens. That's the best case scenario. Of course, the worst case scenario, which is most likely what would happen, is if people stop paying Social Security, they just pocket that money and keep it. I mean, if you think charity and the kindness of people's hearts are enough to support an entire nation's poor, you gotta be pretty delusional. Some people are naturally unlucky. So, I am a determinist. I think the future is largely already determined. So, in that sense, I don't think there's really anything called chance. In that sense, since I don't believe in chance, I don't believe in luck. But there's the other metaphysical part, which is maybe somebody was born in America and somebody was born in India, let's say. So if I was one of those two people, if I were to be randomly born at that time, the chances of me being the person born in America versus being the person born in India are effectively 50-50. Of course, that depends on some concepts of the soul or the essence. But metaphysically speaking, what we would refer to as our own soul, our own essence, the me, is randomly determined. So I do believe that once we're born, we as people are determined 100% by where we're born, the situation we're born in, and our environment in general. But the determination of which of those circumstances it happens to be that we're born in, I don't know that there's any way to say that it's random or if it's fixed. I don't know. So in that case, I would consider that in some way luck. It is important that my child's schools instill religious values. Yeah, that's right. Don't teach your children how to think. Just teach them God. God said this. Don't question it. Nah, you don't need to know why. All you need to know is God said it. That's how to get people to learn. To not question things. That's the best way to learn. It's absolutely stupid. If your job as a school, as a teacher, is to get your children, your students, to learn. And how are you going to get them to learn if you don't get them to ask questions? But religion does the opposite of that. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't encourage you to learn or seek out the truth. It encourages you to believe that whatever you hear is true and that God said it, and therefore you should not seek further for the truth. You should not question it. It's a sharp contrast with what school is about, fundamentally. And of course, there's the other thing, which is, why are we indoctrinating our children to believe some hocus pocus before they're mentally competent to do so? You want to convince them while they're gullible and young. And that's despicable. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Okay, marriage doesn't exist. I mean, you signed a legal document, or your pastor, does some hocus pocus. Nothing metaphysically happens. There's no literal bond tying you together. Which is the other thing, which is, why does marriage still even exist? I mean, it used to make sense when we were all some sort of patriarchal society. It used to be that the father hands down his daughter as property to the husband. But if you're not a bunch of misogynist cunts these days, why do we need to do this? It makes no sense. So marriage is just a vestige of a very sexist society, a patriarchal society. We don't need that nowadays. Nowadays, our bond is supposed to be formed by love. If you really believe your love is that strong, why do you need to bind yourself legally to somebody else? It makes no goddamn sense. I mean, we can talk about tax laws and different benefits you can get for being married, but that's a completely different thing. I'd like to separate marriage from civil unions, as in marriage is the cultural, religious part, and the civil union is the governmental aspect of it. So marriage shouldn't exist. It's a completely bullshit concept. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Yeah. I mean, I don't see any empirical research showing that same-sex couples are any less effective than heterosexual couples at raising children. As far as I know, they're just as competent as parents. And besides, we have literally single mothers and single fathers taking care of their children. We're fine with that. So if we're fine with that, surely same-sex couples aren't the end of the world, are they? Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Yeah, I mean, why do you give a shit what people are consuming? If they want pussy, bunch of dick, go ahead. Why do I care? I mean, there's some psychological research showing it isn't the best for your mental health. And even if they were, I mean, suicide isn't even illegal. You have to establish that pornography is bad not only for the consumer, but people who aren't consuming it, like secondhand smoking. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Absolutely. No exceptions. I mean, there's incest laws. If you want to fuck your brother or sister, go ahead. We might have some problem if you get pregnant, but the fucking part is completely fine. If you want to fuck 5 people at the same time, you might spread AIDS to each other, but go right ahead, you do you. I don't give a shit. No one can feel naturally homosexual. We know that baboons are naturally homosexual. Penguins can feel homosexual. I'm pretty sure bears can feel homosexual. Literally, a lot of animals display homosexuality. And none of the homosexual animals in any other species face any sort of discrimination. It's just in humans. If it's so common in the animal kingdom, I don't see any reason to believe that human homosexuality is any less natural. And besides, how would there be an artificial homosexuality? That doesn't even make conceptual sense. So, it's just no. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Nope. I think we should all talk about sex as much as we want, even in front of the kids. Sex, 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 sex. You like anal? Go do that. You like oral? Go do that. I don't give a fuck. So, that's the entire thing. So, I will cut and I will show you my results at the end. And here we are. My political compass results. I am negative 8.88 and negative 6.41 in the left libertarian category. I don't know who these all are surrounding my dot, but I can only read this, which is T-Pain, Mr. Common Sense, Daddy Bernie. There should have been nominee from the Democratic Party. Here is the objectivist and totally not a libertarian Ayn Rand. The I hate everybody and everybody hates me Thomas Hobbes. And the all-American dictator Donald Plump. What would you like me to tackle next time? I'll be returning with some more video essays next week. But do you want me to take any other tests? Do you have any suggestions for content you want to see? Let me know in the comments down below. And other than that, I'll see you next time.
I'm and I approve this message.